This is Stereoactive Presents. I'm your host, Jeremiah McVay, and welcome to the first official episode of this new podcast. I'll be joined by Jacqueline Soller and Charles Hinshaw. So here's the deal. We used to talk about movies together on another podcast for about 4.5 years, but that show ended back in August of 2021. This is our first time talking together in depth about movies since then, so we had a lot to say. We mainly discussed the Academy Award nominations ahead of the ceremony on Sunday, but we also discussed some other movies we didn't get to talk about together in the time since our old show ended. And, by the way, this podcast is kind of a relaunch of that old show, which was a current events and culture show. Going forward, we'll probably lean mostly into the culture side of things, and it won't be exactly the same format as before, but we'll also be putting up segments from the old show as part of the archives of this new one, so maybe some of the old news and political segments will show up here. And it's not like we'll be shying away from politics here. It'll be here, but maybe not quite as explicitly as in the old show. But we'll see. Please do subscribe if you're interested in movies, music, storytelling, that sort of thing, though, because there'll be plenty of that here. And back to this episode, it was a lot of fun catching up with Jackie and Chuck, and I hope you'll enjoy listening along. I'm here with Jacqueline Soller and Charles Hinshaw, and it's been a really long time since we've been on mic together or done anything like this. I'm glad you were both able to do this, and I am looking forward to catching up. So let's start off with this question so everyone can kind of hear your voices and know who you are as we move into the episode. So we'll start off with, what are a couple of movies released since our old podcast ended that you've enjoyed most? And you don't have to limit yourself to 2022 movies for this, even though that's what we'll be talking about through a lot of the episode. So, Jackie, why don't we start with you?
Oh man, there are so many movies because when was the last one we did? Like August?
Yeah, I
September
think the last thing we
2021?
recorded was Coda, me and Chuck.
Oh,
And
speaking of Coda, can we talk about it winning Best Picture
it's a
at
little
the
crazy, right?
Oscars?
It's a little crazy.
I was so shocked
Yeah.
that it won for Best Picture because I thought it was like a fine movie, but I just thought it was like really formulaic and like kind of, I don't know, one step above like a Lifetime movie. So I was really shocked because I expected Power of the Dog or even King Richard, like that. Like people love those kind of movies. And I personally like Drive My Car, but that one was like a long shot because it's
Right.
like just a foreign film and it didn't get as much buzz as like, for instance, Parasite did. So I was just shocked. I thought like Power of the Dog for sure was gonna win because like people kept talking it up. What won for like the Golden Globe? I forget.
I don't remember at all, honestly. It seems so long ago. But yeah, I do remember in the discussion that Chuck and I had about the movie that I don't think ever actually saw the light of day. I think we talked about how, yeah, it was a formulaic movie, but it did the formula pretty well. So we were like, I don't want to say we were hyped on the movie, but we were like overall positive on it. I don't think we thought it was the greatest movie ever made or the best movie of the year, but we both thought it was like a good version of that type of movie. I think in the last week or two, heading into the Oscars, I started to think it was going to win just from like paying attention to like the chatter, like there was like backlash against the Power of the Dog, and
Oh, what was the backlash?
people were just sort of like over
Or
it being.
it was when Jane Campion like compared her struggle to someone else's struggle.
Yeah,
and
there
it
was that.
like an
Uh-oh.
I'm not sure that
Oh
helped.
no, I didn't hear about that. Oh no.
Yeah, I can't remember if that happened in a time where it could have actually affected voting or not. I honestly can't remember. It seems so long ago,
I
but
think it was her Golden Globe speech.
Was
She
it?
was like,
okay.
Serena and Venus, you know what it's like.
Yeah.
And
Oh my
they were
God.
like,
And
we
she had
don't
to
really know what
apologize
you're talking
later.
about. Yeah.
Right. And then there was the whole Sam Elliott thing with her. He was basically like, "What do you know about cowboys, lady?" was basically the gist of what he said. And yeah. Anyway, any other movies though, Jackie, that you want to bring up?
Yeah. What did you like?
Can I list like movies that I thought like we would have had like really good
Oh
discussions
yeah,
about?
sure, sure. Give us one
Um,
or two right now.
sure. One is Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. That was so fun, and it's like about Generation Z and
Hmm.
like how they uh perceive each other, and like it was like kind of like satirical, pointing fingers at that, and it was also like a thriller. And I went to Lincoln Square, and like they did a Q&A after with the director and the the lead girl, the one
Hmm.
who was in Borat.
Okay, I didn't see it, so
Oh, well, like I feel like that one would have been like really good to have a discussion about.
yeah.
I feel like uh you'd have a lot to say. And and then there was also The Menu, like that.
Hmm.
What's funny is that I saw that in theaters and I was like, this movie's amazing. How come nobody's talking about it? But it wasn't until they put it up on streaming on HBO Max when like everybody was talking about it. And I was like, where were you guys like 5 months ago?
I don't think it had a big theatrical release though. Like I think you're one of the few people to see it that way.
I
Am I
feel like
wrong?
just I feel like just like people in general don't go to the movies as often unless it's like a
Sure.
huge blockbuster because it's so expensive to go to the movies
Yeah.
now. Like it's like $22 for just like a normal movie now, which is insane.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, but that also I thought that was so well done. It's so funny, like so much dark humor, and I feel like we had a lot to talk about that because it's also another thing where it's like funny, but it's also a mirror to society.
Hmm.
One of those films.
I
Um,
this is going to be a theme for me through this episode. I did not see that one either.
Oh
So
no, you should watch it. It's on HBO Max.
yeah, I that's been on my list as like something I should watch, and I just keep not watching it and watching like old movies instead. But yeah, like I had a kid since we all did this together, and a bunch of other stuff happened in my
Congratulations.
life where I was just like not going to the movies that much. So I really realized, especially this past year, how much doing a podcast weekly where we talked about at least one movie every week. I was seeing so many movies for the
I
years that we were
know.
doing that, and then just like it's like a cliff if you that I fell off of in terms of the number of movies I've watched now. But yeah, I don't know. Chuck, what about you? What are a couple things that you saw
Yeah,
and really liked?
I'm kind of in the same boat where once we stopped having to see new things for the podcast, I kind of drifted into seeing older things. Sometimes it was just like, oh, I haven't seen this in a while, and it was more comfort stuff, and then
Hmm.
also wanting to increase my film literacy
Right.
and going pretty far back. Uh, so I looked over the movies from last year, and I did see some stuff that I enjoyed. I never saw Power of the Dog, or well, we saw obviously I saw Coda, and that was fine. Um, uh, Spencer was interesting.
I
Um,
didn't like that one.
I enjoyed the performance.
Yeah, she did a good job.
Um, and I came to really appreciate No Time to Die,
Mm,
but had a lot of mixed feelings about it the first time I saw it.
I'm
And
sure you
then
did.
I think in the past couple years I've watched all the Bonds at least twice.
Yeah.
And so really I've come to terms with
Yeah.
what it
I
with
gotta
what it
say,
was.
like, a couple of moments where I really wish we still had a podcast because I just wanted to check in with you, Chuck,
Hmm.
was when the James Bond movie came out, and then when
Hmm.
Top Gun Maverick came out. Because I
Yeah.
Oh
felt like those were
yeah.
movies that you were going to be like either ride or die for, or just be like, "Fuck this, they got it wrong,"
Right,
and
right.
I was very curious to know.
Yeah, I got
Um,
feelings about Top Gun Maverick.
Oh,
okay,
I want to hear. Is that for
do you want to
later or
save
I've
it
for?
got
or?
I don't know. Um
Okay.
uh I loved Top Gun Maverick. It's my favorite movie of the year.
Oh wow. Okay.
It was good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was good.
I thought it was such a, and also because I don't there are so few movies to go see, and I don't go to the I'm going to try and remedy that this year, but I don't go to the movie. I didn't wasn't going to the movies as much. and to go to, it was everything to me that it was to a lot of people, which was like this excuse to get out and go see something really fun and
Mm-hmm.
exciting and emotional and nostalgic and all that good stuff. And I think it's a legitimately good movie too. Like it's got a
Mm-hmm.
really cool story and well executed, and one of Cruise's better performances. Like the scene with him and Val Kilmer is not phoned in by any means.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I really loved that.
I don't think I would ever accuse Tom Cruise of phoning anything in. Like he's
No, he always
like,
gives 110%.
yeah,
Right.
he's super committed to
He
anything he
just
does.
doesn't always
Apparently,
have like acting moments these days.
sure,
It's a
sure,
lot of stunts and a lot
yeah,
of
true.
that kind of stuff, and he doesn't always just get to sit down and act, and that was a cool moment where he got to do that.
Hmm. Well, for me, I'm gonna say that the movie that I have enjoyed the most since our time all talking about movies together in years past was RRR. That
Oh
movie,
wow,
Oh,
you saw it.
yeah, that movie is so good, and I had like one of the best movie going experiences of my life with that movie because it came out in I think March in the United States here, like almost a year ago now, thereabouts. And I didn't get to go see it then when it was out in theaters originally because I had like a newborn at home and it was like not in the
Mhm.
cards, But I was like, it's on Netflix. I know that, but I have a feeling I will get to see this in the theater at some point. So I held out, and it came to the Austin Film Society in October, like a week or so before my birthday. And I went to it, and there were so many people there who had like seen this movie so many times and knew everything, and were like losing their minds at this movie, and like, and in a way that was like just really fun. It wasn't obnoxious like it could be of like people like knowing the lines and just like losing their shit. Like that can be annoying, but
Yeah.
it amped up the experience so much in this case because the movie is just like, have you guys seen it?
No, but I hear good things,
Oh, I
and
love
it's
it
on
so
my
much.
list. It's
I
on
love
my
it. It's
queue.
such a fun movie. And I got home from the movie theater after seeing it by myself to my wife who was home with our child and was like, my birthday is next week. All I want is to watch RRR again on Netflix. And I think you'll love it. And let's do that. And she's like, okay, it's your birthday. Fine. And we did that. And she loved it too. And she just watched it again herself recently. And it's so good.
How
Uh,
long is it? I heard it's really long, right?
it's like 3.5 hours, so it is long. But
Is it a musical?
It's not a musical, but there is a musical number in it.
Okay.
It won like best original song or something like that, right? For the Golden Globes.
It should have.
Because I
If
know
it
that
didn't, I don't know.
I know that someone from that movie won for a music award, but I forget if it's original song or
I know it got
something
nominated. That
else.
was the only Oscar nomination was for original song.
Oh, so then it was probably that. 'Cause he
Yeah.
won.
Sorry
He won the composer of the original song, or
for a Golden
M.
Globe.
Kiravani.
yeah, for
Okay.
the
I'm looking
for
it up right now.
RRR.
But another movie I'll name check real quick is Licorice Pizza. I did really like that movie. I think we're all fans of
Oh,
Paul Thomas Anderson to some degree, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
did you see the Vanity Fair interview with Elizabeth Olsen when they asked her if she thought the Haim sister was a good actress?
I did not, but I thought she
Is
was a
this
good
tea? Are
actress.
you spilling tea?
Yeah. So like
Okay.
Vanity Fair has this series where they have actors or just like guests in general strapped
Yeah.
to a lie detector test.
Oh.
And so they asked if she liked Licorice Pizza, and she said yes. And they said, "Do you think that the lead actress, I forget which Haim sister it was,
Alana.
if Alana Haim was a good actor?" And she's like, "Yeah." It was like, "Do you think she's a better actor than you?" And she's like,
Oh,
"No."
well, she's not going to say yes.
Well,
to
yeah,
that.
okay. I don't blame her for that. I will say though that if I was voting in the Oscars that year, I would have voted for Alana Haim for Best Actress. It was my
Oh,
favorite.
really?
It was one of my favorite performances of the year. Yeah, and then I'm gonna. We already talked about Power of the Dog a little bit. I like that movie, but I have a surprise for the both of you. I think you'll be surprised by this. Avatar: The Way of Water, so fucking good. How did that happen?
Whoa!
Oh,
You
you
loved
liked
it.
The
I thought it was
Way
so
of
good. Like,
Water.
and
Now we know the
so
way
for
of
people who don't
water.
know this, because why would you? We talked about Avatar on our old podcast when we would do like retro movie discussions, and none of us really enjoyed rewatching it when we
Hated
did.
it.
Yeah, we all thought
I
it was
thought it was just
lackluster.
fine.
Okay, sure, but that was like the most stellar version of a review that we had of the movie. The rest of us were like, "What the fuck is this? How is this so popular?" But I really enjoyed Avatar: The Way of Water, and I enjoyed the 3D aspect of it, and I just
Oh,
thought it
that
was
is
really good.
surprising.
It's stuck with me. Did you guys see it?
Do you think
Yep.
it's because of
You
the
did?
themes of the movie and how you better relate to it now that you're a dad?
I don't
Oh
think so.
shit.
I honestly don't think so. I just think it was a better movie.
Okay.
I mean, because I think the end for me is Payacon. I think that was the hook for me that I was like, I'm in on this movie. Like, I think I was already enjoying it,
Is that
but
the
then
whales?
yeah,
The whale-like
space
creatures?
whale. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Those
I,
were
I
cool.
I really liked what they did with that, and by the time they got to that part, I was like, oh, I'm hooked on this movie. I like it a lot. I mean, I don't think it was like the best movie of the year, but just having not really enjoyed Avatar either time I saw it when it came out or when we talked about it on our old show, I was very shocked at how much I liked this. So yeah.
A moment I enjoyed in that movie, which I thought was real cool, like old school 90s action movie you don't get anymore, is when they were like, "Are you going to fight this dude?" And then he doesn't, and he goes, "Then let's get it done." I
Yeah.
thought that was cool. I thought that was like a cool, like, just quippy line before
Yeah.
they fight. And you don't see that anymore.
Yeah,
That's
James
very
Cameron
true.
brings some like old school like action movie stuff.
Yeah.
And old school being like the 80s and 90s.
Right, the 80s and the 90s.
Yeah.
Back when movies were movies.
Exactly. I mean, we just rewatched Men in Black the other day, and I don't think I'd seen that movie in probably 15, 20 years. And
Wow.
I was like, wow, this movie holds up more than I ever thought it would. And it's just like,
Oh,
it
interesting.
literally is like, they don't make them like this anymore because it's
Yeah.
90 something minutes. They get into the story, tell the story, and then they're like, we're fucking done. Leave the theater, please.
Yeah.
Like
And it's got laughs. It's got
yeah, it all holds
adventure.
up. Yeah. Anyway, shall we move on?
Yeah, let's get into it. Let's get
Okay.
it done.
Let's get it done.
So, yeah, let's get into the Oscar nominations for movies released in 2022. And along the way, maybe we'll just talk about other stuff too. We'll see. So, for each category that we're going to discuss, let's answer these questions. 1, what are your thoughts on the nominees? 2, of the nominees, who or what do you hope will win? 3, who or what else would you have nominated if it were up to you? And last, what is your favorite of the year, regardless of the nominations? Like, what is the thing that if you had a trophy to hand out, it would go to that? So let's start with Best Actress. The nominees are Kate Blanchett for Tar, Ana de Armas for Blonde, Andrea Riseborough for To Leslie, Michelle Williams for The Fabelmans, and Michelle Yeoh for Everything Everywhere All at Once. So, Chuck, why don't we start with you? What do you think of those nominations?
So it's interesting because I was sort of ready to write off 2022 as a bit of a dud year. And then for various reasons, I guess it's always when the awards start to coalesce, you're like, oh, okay, I guess that is worth watching.
Right.
And so I started watching what I could when I could, not totally prioritizing it. But I did see all of those, except The Fabelmans I've only seen about half of. But because
Any reason why?
I had a hard time getting through it.
Oh.
Especially the beginning. I was
Can
like,
I say something about that?
sure.
I can see why, because like I feel like the first half is mostly just being like, this is our life together as a family, and I love movies. And then the actual, I feel like the inciting incident, to
Yeah.
reference like the structure of screenplays, was when the family moves to Northern California, because that's when like a lot of conflict happens. Whereas like before then, there wasn't that much conflict. It was
Oh
just
wow.
like,
See, that's really kind of where I left off, was right when they just got to California.
yeah, that's like when like shit start to go down. Sorry
Okay.
about the cursing,
Well,
but
I look.
No, who cares?
but like that's when like he started like fighting with other people and like having a goal Whereas like the other ones is just like him observing his family and like there's like some conflict, you know, like or like there's like little undertones like with him finding out about his Seth Rogen's character
I
and
like that part. I thought that was
yeah,
clever.
like that. I feel like that's you know like that's like that was like the only conflict I can think of for that first half
Yeah.
about
So
him.
I was watching it to prepare for this,
Mm-hmm.
and I got 10 minutes in and I was like, I don't think I can do it. And
Oh man.
I switched and watched To Leslie instead, which I actually enjoyed To Leslie.
Yeah.
But I would say to answer the question, um I would give it to Michelle Yeoh more so as like a legacy thing. That it's not that I
Right,
didn't think she was good in Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's more that it's that whole thing of compounding all this work,
Mm-hmm.
and that I don't think that any of the other performances are like head and shoulders above her.
Mm-hmm.
So
right.
I would give it to her.
Is there anything else you would have nominated, or do you have another performance that's actually your favorite?
No.
Okay,
No,
fair
I
enough.
don't.
Well, I know there was like a whole controversy about Andrea Riseborough being
Yeah, I think it's
nominated.
stupid, the
Yeah, I didn't
For
get
controversy.
that.
Yeah.
So what is it? It's just like she wasn't nominated for the other awards like SAG and Golden Globe, so they're like she just came out of nowhere or something like that.
No, it's not exactly that. It's that she has like some high profile friends, or I'm not even sure if friends is the right word, but people who were supporters of her getting a nomination. And so she basically didn't go the traditional route, which is like, fuck that. Who gives a shit? It did highlight that there were no black women nominated, and people thought like, why did she get this nomination instead of
Right.
some people from other movies like the woman from Till, or I think
Viola Davis.
Viola Davis from The Woman King. And I mean, I think that's fair to criticize the Oscars for for not nominating them or anyone else, but I don't know that that's Riseborough's fault. Like I haven't seen the movie, but I've heard it's a good performance that's worthy of recognition, and it's a movie that probably wouldn't have gotten recognition without some people championing it, which, you know, is what you hope would happen.
Right.
But like things don't happen in a vacuum, so there's controversy, you know.
Is it because like the way that she went about campaigning wasn't like
I
protocol?
don't. I mean, honestly, like the controversy seems like bullshit. So I don't. I honestly don't know how to answer that. I mean, it just
Yeah.
seems like people. It seems like the people who got pissed were the people who spend a ton of money campaigning for Oscars, and they're like, "Why did we have to spend all this money?"
Oh, I see.
And or not
She
even the
just
people
knew
who
the right
spend it, but the
people.
people who convince people to spend it by hiring them for like a PR campaign to get an Oscar. Like those people are like, she didn't go through us. We're the
Oh, I
gatekeepers
see.
of this
Yeah.
bullshit. So I think
Oh.
that's the real quote unquote controversy, if there is one. They're not going to say that's what it is. But Chuck, you saw it, so do you want to talk more
Yeah.
about it?
I thought it was a really good performance. It's really interesting to see somebody who's sitting out on the street with no home, and they actually look like somebody you might walk
That's
by
funny.
on the street. And it is kind of about that. Like I thought of it like this is like a flyover movie. Like these are the people that us glitzy coasters or whatever fly over and walk past. And so I appreciated that. I also appreciated it's one of the more interesting movies about an alcoholic I've seen, because usually in movies there's like something that makes them an alcoholic, or there's like with Flight, as much as I enjoyed that movie, it's like his dawning on needing that he had a problem was spurred by this incredibly dramatic one in a million incident. But she just was, and it wasn't like, oh, my son died and so I'm an
Mm-hmm.
alcoholic, or so, like she just was. And she had to deal with that in the way that your average person who is that way has to deal with that. So I appreciated that part of it. And Mark Maron was not terrible to watch act, which I was nervous about.
Right. Yeah, he can be iffy, but I think he's gotten
Yeah.
better over the years too.
Yeah, it worked.
That-
It worked.
yeah,
Did either of you see Till or The Woman King?
I
I
did
saw The
not.
Woman King, and it was really good. But apparently, the tribe that it's based on, they didn't go into like the more controversial details
Well, of
because
course
they
they
were
did.
like touching a little bit because like they were part of the slave trade, so like they would like capture
Oh.
people and sell them, and like they touch upon that a little bit, but they didn't really go into that, which.
Yeah.
I understand why. Like it feels like very much like a Hollywood movie. Like you don't want to go too far into it, otherwise it's gonna be a whole other thing.
Right.
Because it was
Right.
it was more like a very formulaic like action movie, and it wasn't bad. Like it was enjoyable, but it was very much. I don't know if the word's whitewashed, but it's like missing a lot of
It was
things
glossed
that
over. There
happen.
was a
Yeah,
lot that
glossed
was
over.
Yeah.
Yeah,
glossed over.
exactly. But I it's on Netflix if you want to watch it.
Yeah, I
Oh,
meant
is it?
to
I didn't
watch
know
it.
that.
Yeah, I meant to
Okay.
watch it. But I obviously didn't.
Jackie, what did you think of the nominees overall? Like, what is your favorite nominee, and then what else would you have nominated, and who would you have given it to in a perfect world?
Well, I was really shocked about the Ana de Armas thing because I know that there was a lot of controversy because Marilyn Monroe like explicitly stated that she didn't want a movie made about her, and so
Mm.
they did this, and then there was like something like a pro-life scene in there, and
Did you watch Blonde?
no, I've only read like articles about it and like all the controversy about it, so I haven't seen it because like I don't know if I want to support the movie if it's like something that she explicitly didn't want, but I don't know. What's your opinion on that? Like if like the person themselves were like, I don't want this to happen,
I
would you
don't
still
know.
support the movie or?
It depends on the
Well,
movie.
I watched
think.
it, so I guess I supported it.
But did you know about it beforehand that she didn't want the
I
movie made?
didn't.
Oh yeah,
But
see.
I agreed with a critic who I wish I could remember their name. I would give them credit, but they were like, this isn't a bad movie because it's misogynist or this or that or whatever, which it is. It's a bad movie because it's bad. And I was
Oh.
like, yeah, this movie sucks. Like,
Oh really? It's like
yeah.
really terrible.
It's hard to watch. It's torture porn. It's not really interesting. It's kind of boring. It's really well shot.
Oh.
But it's like it's just difficult to get through. And it's
Mm.
3 hours long. It's just
Oh, it's
It's
3 hours
3
long? I didn't know
Yeah.
that. Yeah, this is a movie that I was like hyped to see in advance because like the trailer I thought made it seem interesting. Like I like her as an actress. And then as the review started coming out, I was like, yeah, I think I'll skip this probably. I'm not going to prioritize this by any means.
I'm not surprised by her
Yeah.
being nominated because, like, the Oscars, the Academy does love when someone embodies someone else, like
Sure.
becomes this other person.
And she's sort of had a moment in recent years of like being on the rise. So I think
And
there
she
was
was
certain.
good. It was a good performance.
She did give a good performance in a
Yeah.
bad film.
Yeah.
Okay, because that's what I've heard too. Yeah. Okay, but Jackie, which nominees did you like, or who do you hope wins of the nominees?
I guess Michelle Yeoh, just because
Okay.
I love that movie. And I agree with Chuck that like she's been in so many other great movies and hasn't had the same recognition as she's been
Mhm.
getting for this film.
Okay,
In terms of like I guess mainstream recognition.
right. And are there other performances out there that you wish had been nominated? And would you have? Is there one on top of that that you would give an award to if you could?
I mean, yeah, Viola Davis, I thought she did an amazing job in The Woman King. And then like in other movies, but I feel like it's a huge long shot. Like no one would have been nominated for that. Like but like The Menu, I thought um Anya Taylor-Joy did a really good job in that. And I watched this movie called Broker by the director who made The Shoplifters, Hirokazu
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Koreeda. And I thought like the actors in that movie did a really good job. And so like
Mhm.
maybe the main actress in that is IU, but I think she went by her government name, like her real name, Lee Ji-yoon. So maybe her, but like the thing is like that was like such a under the radar movie. I don't think it would have been nominated, but I thought she did a really good job in that movie.
Yeah, I don't think I even knew about that movie. Well, for me, I did not see Blonde and I did not see To Leslie. I also don't think Michelle Williams' performance is a lead performance. I think she should have been nominated as a supporting, which I think she was in some other awards. But I don't know. And then I'm kind of torn between Kate Blanchett for Tar and Michelle Yeoh for Everything Everywhere All at Once, because I really liked both of those performances and think either of them would be more than deserving. If I had to pick someone, I think I'd also go with Michelle Yeoh for similar reasons of like I think she's deserving of recognition for her career and this performance. I thought it was a really good performance. I've seen the movie twice now, and both times, like meaning her performance and so much else in the movie just kind of blows me away. But and then Kate Blanchett, she has an Oscar. It's not for a movie that I think necessarily deserved one. I don't know, but I don't know that she needs another one. But I do think it's a really great performance.
She has two.
Oh, really?
Does she have
What
two?
Oh,
She
she
yeah.
won for The Aviator.
I forgot she won for The Aviator. Yeah, so
Oh.
that's
She was
that's a good
Katharine
win,
Hepburn.
maybe. Right. I like that performance. I don't remember if I thought it was like the best supporting of the year, but whatever. Okay, well, how about we move on to Best Actor? So the nominees there are Austin Butler for Elvis, Colin Farrell for The Banshees of Inisherin, Brendan Fraser for The Whale, Paul Mescal for After Sun, Bill Nighy for Living, and I'm just going to throw it out there that the only one of these I've seen is Colin Farrell in The Banshees of Inisherin. So, Jackie, what do you like of those performances? What do you hope wins? Etc.
I really wanted to see After Sun, but I couldn't find it. It's not on streaming, which is disappointing.
Yeah, I think
thing.
it's still in that stage where you have to pay like $20-$25 to watch
Oh
it on
wow!
streaming.
Have you any of you? Any?
No, I
guys
wanted to
seen
watch
No,
it
I
too.
didn't see it.
I've heard
Dang.
so many good things about it. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like Austin Butler is gonna win just because he is still Elvis at this present moment. Like he still talks like him, so I feel like he really became Elvis, and he doesn't know how to stop. So he'll probably get the award for that because like the Academy loves when people become other people that they know of. And I didn't see Living. Have you guys seen that? Living.
Nah, I missed
No.
that one too.
I don't even know. What is that movie about?
It's like by the guy who wrote Remains of the Day. I thought that was cool.
Well, and it's a remake of a Kurosawa movie, actually,
Oh.
Ikiru.
Oh.
But
I didn't know
I
that.
still haven't seen it though.
So I saw Brendan Fraser in The Whale, and like there was a controversy about that.
Yeah.
But I thought he did a good job. Like it was really powerful performance
I've heard that movie sucks though.
What
Like,
was the
that he's-
controversy?
because it was like fat shaming. Is that what it was?
Oh,
I don't know if I don't know. I don't know if it was fat shaming or like representation of like maybe someone else should have played the part. I'm
Oh,
not
like
sure if
they
it was-
wanted an actual queer person to play the part.
Oh, is that part of the story? I haven't seen it.
Yeah,
so-
he's-
I thought he meant
he's-
an actual obese person. Or
That's
Oh.
what I thought, but maybe it was more the queer.
if you
thing
could
then,
find
rather
an
than that.
obese gay person,
I know
to
that's
play the role.
That's the thing. Yeah,
Yeah, 'cause
I'm not saying I
very
agree
obese.
with that part. but
Like he can't even, it's really hard for him to get out of
yeah,
his chair. Like so that would really, you would have to really search.
You have to
Right.
cast a wide net.
I guess I
Which I
thought
don't
that
mean
he's.
in a pejorative.
I kind of wonder if Brendan Fraser is going to win just because it's like the comeback story, which they also love. But I do think that movie has had some detractors, and a lot of people don't think it's a very good movie, even if he's giving a good performance in it. So I don't know, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Austin Butler wins.
Is
I
it-
also wouldn't be surprised if Colin Farrell wins for the whole
That's
like
true.
career thing. Like he's never won.
He's never won.
So,
Oh wow.
No.
He should have won. He should have been nominated instead for Batman because I didn't even realize that was him.
I
As
think he
the
should have been
Penguin.
nominated for that as well. I think he should have had 2
You
nominations.
should have won
this
for The
year.
Recruit.
I'm not sure he's ever been nominated. I can't
performance.
recall, but I don't
I
know.
don't think so.
So were there other performances that either of you thought should have been nominated?
You go, Chuck. Say it.
You think I'm going to say Tom Cruise?
Yeah.
No. I loved Cruise in that movie, as I said, and I thought there was a great moment, but it's not Best Actor worthy.
Oh really? You don't think he was snubbed?
No, I don't. No. That's silly. That's
And
not
who do you
silly.
hope wins, Chuck?
I want Brendan Fraser to win. I thought
You
he
do?
was wonderful in that movie. Darren Aronofsky has done nothing but just talk about how overweight people are so consistently misrepresented in film, and this was an attempt to be sort of real and true to a struggle that a very unique type of overweight person had. I mean, this guy's
Mm-hmm.
600 pounds, and
Wow.
it's not it's not just like the plus size person you see walking down the street, but it is about food addiction, and there
Okay.
is some really interesting scenes and moments that kind of encapsulate what I imagine that is like. Um, I think I enjoyed the movie. It's really intense,
Mm-hmm.
but it is based on a play, and it does take place all in one room, and so it's hard to be 100% cinematic in that way. And as much as Sadie Sink is good as her character is profoundly annoying, and it
I
is
think it's just like
difficult to watch.
way over the top. She's like
It
way over the
is.
top rude.
Yes.
Like no
Yes,
way
yes.
someone's that awful.
Right. It's hard to believe. It's hard to
Mm.
sort of buy into her character. But I would love to see him win, because I think he gave it his all. I don't get the Austin Butler thing. I thought he looked like he was wearing an Elvis costume, like it was like a Halloween costume. And I thought Tom Hanks was better in that movie than he was.
That's true.
And
Why wasn't he nominated, Tom
I
Hanks?
don't know, because go
We're like
figure, because the people are
children.
done with Tom Hanks, I guess. But and the movie's just kind of hard to watch, and so I don't understand that. I also really enjoyed Colin Farrell. I wouldn't be mad if he won for Banshees. And I've always liked Colin Farrell. It's nice that you don't have to be a Colin Farrell apologist anymore. I feel like there was a time when he was like just a
Yeah,
pretty
sure.
boy and nobody.
Yeah, and making trash.
Yeah. I guess he did make some trash. That Total Recall remake, which I never saw, but
Or Daredevil.
yeah, Daredevil, and Alexander. Let's be honest. As
Yeah,
much as
yeah.
I got some history with that, but I didn't see the other two, so
Yeah.
this is my least educated category, but I'd love to see
Mine
Brendan
too.
Fraser
Like I
win.
said, I've only seen Colin Farrell
Yeah,
in Banshees. So by process of elimination for me, I hope he wins because I've seen that performance and thought it was
yeah,
very good, and I like his kind of like career arc trajectory. Like it's nice. It would be
yeah.
nice if he won. But since I only saw that one, I'll throw out some other things that I did see that I would have been cool with being nominated. Adam Sandler in
Mm,
Hustle, which is like a pretty decent
yes,
movie, and I think he's pretty good in it.
agreed.
Daniel Kaluuya in Nope. I think that's the type of performance. It's so quiet and almost small in a way that I don't think it was ever going to get nominated, but I think he's so good. And John Hamm in Confess Fletch,
Oh
which
wow.
he's better in that movie than I think it has any right to have. That movie has no right to have such a good
Mm.
performance in it. It's like a decent movie that I wish they made more of, but like I think he's just really good in it. And just to round it out, I'll say Daniel Craig in Glass Onion just because he's fun. But
Oh
I'm
yeah,
not
that's
sure
It's
if
funny.
I'm not sure if he really needs it. Um, yeah, but Chuck, did you have any that you wished had been nominated?
no. I'm bad at that
Okay,
question for this year, because I really saw what I was supposed to see, and I didn't really expand out much.
gotcha.
Yeah.
That's fair enough.
I thought that the actors in All Quiet on the Western Front did a really good job, but that's very much like this is a war movie and you have to act
Hmm.
traumatized.
Yeah. I got feelings
But
about that movie.
they did a good job in terms of that. Like I felt their emotion on their face, like seeing their friends die and all that. What do
I
you want to
Well,
talk about? Do you
well,
want to
I'm
talk
gonna
about that
save
later?
that.
What you're
I'm gonna
let's
save
come
that.
back to that. Let's come back to
okay?
that. So let's move on to Best Supporting Actress then. The nominees are Angela Bassett for Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, Hong Chow for The Whale, Carrie Condon for The Banshees of Inisherin, Jamie Lee Curtis for Everything Everywhere All at Once, and Stephanie Hsu for Everything Everywhere All at Once as well. So I didn't see The Whale, like I said, so I can't comment on Hong Chow. Um, I guess if I had to pick one of these, I'd go with Stephanie Hsu. I thought she was really good. I think Jamie Lee Curtis is probably going to win.
Oh no.
Oh no.
I think because of the career thing. I think I don't know.
Because like I felt like Stephanie Shu, her performance really made that movie, whereas like Jamie Lee Curtis was very much like on the side, and
Yeah, I don't
she was
disagree with
funny.
you, but you know who has a long career and Oscar voters
I
know?
see.
Mhm.
I see how it is.
The Activia
Yeah,
lady.
I think she's gonna win.
She made a joke about that
Yes.
apparently. Yeah.
Really?
Oh
something
yeah,
about
about hawking yogurt for
Exactly.
your bowels.
Well, who do you guys hope will win? It sounds like Stephanie Shu for you, Jackie, maybe?
Yeah, I thought that
Mhm.
she like her performance. It was like a huge range for that movie
Mhm.
because like she was playing like all these different people. So I thought like she did a good job, and it was like a huge part of the movie. Whereas like Jamie Lee Curtis was like in the background, and she was funny,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't think she like added as much. Like her performance didn't add as much as Stephanie Shu's character.
Okay.
With Hong Chow, I would rather have her nominated for The Menu. I thought her performance in The Menu was so good.
Oh, I didn't know she was in
You
that.
should definitely watch. Yeah, it's so funny. She's like, oh man, I want to quote it, but like you both didn't see it. It's like tortillas deliciosas.
Sounds funny.
I'm sorry, like you gotta watch the movie to get it. So like whoever's listening and saw The Menu, you get it. But I mean The Whale, I can see why, because like she is the friend of Brendan Fraser and is also the sister of his lover who had passed.
Mm.
So you can feel the hurt in her voice, and like when she talks about like when that she really cares about him, but she can't stop enabling him. Like she still like she still buys him buckets of fried chicken to eat despite him, like she knows that he's gonna die.
Mm.
So it's a really complex character, and I think she did a good job with that.
Gotcha. I also wouldn't be surprised if Angela Bassett wins
Mhm.
for similar reasons of just she should have an
Right.
Oscar.
Can we talk about when Chadwick Boseman was nominated, and then like they saved that
Oh, yeah.
category for the last
Yeah,
for
that
the
was the-
last thing, and then he didn't
That's how
even
you
win. I
know
was
it-
like so
yeah,
That's how you
awkward.
know it's not rigged. Because they fucked
Yeah,
it up
true.
so hard.
That is true.
And it's like
I gotta say though, they got it right. I think.
agree.
I think Anthony Hopkins gave one of his best performances of like a fucking illustrious as hell career in that
That's
movie.
true, but it was
so
just
good.
so
It was
awkward.
awkward.
So yeah, it was very awkward.
And he wasn't
It's
even
so,
there.
So stupid on their part.
He wasn't there, so Joaquin
there.
Phoenix had to be like, I accept this on his behalf. See you later.
Yeah, because he probably
Yeah.
was like, I didn't expect
Yeah.
to win, or like because it was
No,
like
he
COVID.
said he
he's like,
didn't
I'm not gonna
expect
go
it.
over there.
He did a thing on
Oh.
Instagram like the next day.
In terms of like, how do you say her name? Carrie Condon.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't even remember her character. She's like the sister, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. She was
I guess
good.
I would rather have. Did you see Triangle of Sadness?
Yes.
I didn't see it.
Oh my god, it's so good. So like Dolly DeLeon, the one
Yeah,
who
yeah.
plays the
I've heard
woman
she's
who's like,
good.
I'm
Yeah.
the captain
Yeah.
now. She like doesn't show up till like the second half.
Wait, she
of the
really says
movie.
that though?
No,
Not
she.
exactly.
It was like a whole scene. No, not
Okay.
exactly. And it's not like. Yeah, I was just like referencing that movie. I'm the captain.
Okay,
now.
I thought maybe the movie was referencing it.
No. It was just like because they worked on a yacht and then they get
Yeah, yeah.
stranded and then she's like, well, is the yacht here?
Mhm.
No, I'm the
Mhm.
captain now. So I thought that she did a really good job because like you didn't even see her character, like you just saw her like in one scene in the first half, and then later she like really takes over the movie and like changes the whole trajectory of it. And I thought she did a good job. Like she made the movie really enjoyable.
Yeah. I agree. I would put her in there too. I'd swap out either Jamie Lee or Stephanie Shu.
Oh, wow.
I didn't love both of them. I thought I could see them acting, which is a really like snobby, stupid thing to say, but it is how I felt.
Well, as the actor here, maybe
There were
you're
just
allowed to
certain
say that.
moments where I was like, okay. But yeah, I'd like to see Angela Bassett win for those reasons, not because it's like the performance of all performances, but she really kind of takes the mantle from Chadwick Boseman to a certain degree, and really infuses that movie with a lot of feeling. And then, but I would really like to see Hong Chow win. I loved her in Downsizing. She was like the
Oh
best part of that
yeah.
movie. And she's, pops up here and there, and really appreciated her in The Whale for the reasons that you have already said, Jackie. And so yeah, I'd love to see her win. But I also think it's going to be Jamie Lee Curtis, just based on popularity contest sort of rules.
Didn't she like comment on the whole Nepo Babies article? And how she's like,
I'm the original Nepo baby.
That article was so stupid, by the way. It was so dumb. Like, some of the people they were calling out is like, oh my God, their dad was a fucking grip.
Oh yeah, that's so
like, give me a
what?
break. Like,
any way you can get your foot in. That's what I say.
Yeah, right.
Also, like, I feel like it helps, but if you're bad, you're bad. Like, I'm sure that I'm not gonna name names, but there was someone who is the daughter of a very popular actor, and she's like, I've been on hundreds of auditions and I haven't been casted. So it's like, well, I guess if you're not good, you're not good.
Somebody said it. I wish I could remember who it was, but it doesn't matter. I agreed with it that it's like, it's really not a big deal. Everybody, if your dad's or your mom works in a certain industry, you're going to potentially work in that industry. It's not just cinema and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's also silly to have people be like, I have zero leg up in this industry. It's like, at least acknowledge the privilege,
own it. Yeah. I think own it. And I do think there's levels. I think, like, obviously Jamie Lee Curtis is where she is because her parents were like huge stars in their day, but she's also a good actress that people enjoy.
Yeah.
And honestly, part of the reason she is huge, and she said this, is because she is the daughter of the woman in Psycho.
Right.
Like, that's part of why she was cast in Halloween, and it was like a big deal. And
she also has staying power, and I think that's something that she did on her own, was because you can get into one or two movies and be kind of flavor of the month, and then it's like, well, what else you got? And I think she's definitely shown her range and put in the time and paid her dues. Other people, maybe not so much, but her for sure.
Totally. I think for me, some other people I would have liked to see in the mix for this were Keke Palmer, who, if she'd been nominated, I would say please give it to her, because I think that was probably my favorite of the year. Michelle Williams, like I said, I think should have been nominated here.
What was Keke Palmer?
I'll just throw out
Nope.
Oh,
sorry, I didn't see Nope.
For Nope.
I looked at it and I said, nope.
It was really good.
Kidding. I just didn't get around to it.
Boo. Michelle Williams for The Fabelmans, of course. And then I thought Kate Hudson was really good in Glass Onion, I gotta say. But I'm not sure if... I think she might be one name too many for me to list here, so I would cut her if I had
who
to.
I'd like to see nominated is Janelle Monáe.
Oh yeah, she was great in that movie.
I'd call her best lead, though. I think she'd be in lead.
Sure.
Okay, so up next then is Best Supporting Actor. The nominees for that are Brendan Gleeson for The Banshees of Inisherin, Brian Tyree Henry for Causeway, Judd Hirsch for The Fabelmans, Barry Keoghan for The Banshees of Inisherin, and Ki Huy Kwan for Everything Everywhere All at Once. I did not see Causeway. I love Brian Tyree Henry and basically everything I've seen him in. Did anybody see Causeway?
Yeah, I saw it.
Not just you. Oh, really?
Oh, you watched it?
Yeah, I thought he did a good job. It's very much like an acting movie. Like, we are both broken people, and we are gonna like hang out together and talk about our lives and like have monologues about that, which is what that movie was. And he did a great job. It was him and Jennifer Lawrence.
Right. Is it worth watching?
Yeah, I feel like it's like, as a movie, yeah, like it's their acting is good in it, but like I don't know, is it Best Picture nominee? I don't know. It's just
not everything has to be
right. It's just like very much a movie about like these two broken people who find each other, and like it's not like they don't like get too romantic. It's more about, because like I think she plays like a queer person, and so it's just more about them being friends, and like you learn about like how they got to where they are now, and like they're just helping each other get through the
Gotcha.
day. I think it takes place
Okay.
in Louisiana.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense with that name, maybe. Okay. Well, who would you give it to, Jackie, out of these nominees?
Probably, I feel like Ki Hui Kwan is gonna win just because he won the other awards,
Sure.
and like this was like his big comeback. He was in Indiana Jones and The Goonies, and then he said that he couldn't find work. Like it was really hard for him to find roles that
Mm-hmm.
you know for like Asian actors, and so like
Right.
this was like the huge thing where he's like, okay, now I can come back and like be in this role, and so
Well, you said you think he will win. Is he who you would vote for out of these five?
I feel like I really like Brendan Gleeson in The Banshees of Inisherin, just because like he was like an unhinged person, but it wasn't in like an obvious way.
Right.
So I really liked his performance, and like I could understand where he's coming from, because he wanted to stop to pardon my French. He said we want to stop fucking around, like just drinking and hanging out with Colin Farrell, and just work on his song, right? He wanted to
Mm-hmm.
make this one masterpiece before he passed away, because he was like dying, right?
Right.
And so I thought that was like just an interesting character in general, because like he was like struggling with his mental health, and like also wanting to leave like this legacy while also living on this island that was very remote, and he was like isolating his one friend.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought that was
Wait,
just
was
like
he dying? I don't
I thought
remember
that's
now. It's
what
been a
the whole
while.
thing, like
Well,
he was like, I'm
he was
dying, so I
getting
want to
older.
finish.
It was just getting older.
I think
Okay,
the
that's
thing
what I
was that
thought.
he was going to
Okay.
die soon because he was getting older.
Right.
Not
But
that
it wasn't
had,
like he
a
had a disease.
Oh, I
disease.
thought he had a
Okay.
disease. Oh, okay.
I don't think so.
So like that, I thought that just that character in general was really interesting.
Yeah.
But so I would probably vote for him, but I feel like I understand why people would vote for Ki Hui Kwan.
Mm-hmm. I think I would vote for him, for
Yeah.
Kiwi Kwan. I think he will win as well, but I think I would vote for him too, because I did really like him. I liked all the performances in that movie, really. Probably it sounds like more than Chuck did, which is fine. But Chuck, what did you think of these nominees, and who do you hope wins? Who do you think will win?
I want Ki Hui Kwan to win. And I
Oh.
thought he was awesome in that movie. And I thought it was the best part of the movie as far as performance is concerned. And I really was taken with his ability to shapeshift in these multi-universes, from, nerdy dad to kind of like cool single bachelor guy or whatever he was in the movie theater sequence. And
Right.
yeah, and I thought, and also to be the sort of I don't want to say oblivious, but I guess that's what he was he was, he was oblivious 1 minute, and then he was the guy with all the answers the next minute. And I just thought
Right.
he navigated the ups and downs of that character really well. Brendan Gleeson, I'm kind of in your traditional boat of being like, is that really a supporting character?
I think there's more of a case for that than Michelle Williams being lead. You thought he was a lead.
I feel like they're the two leads of the film. But I
Right.
get it. I get it in that Colin Farrell is more present,
Right.
and it's really kind of his story.
It's like that movie. What was the movie that won last year? Was it Black Judas or something like that?
Judas and the Black Messiah.
I think that was 2 years ago now,
Judas and the
wasn't it?
Black Messiah. But like that, they were both like leading, but one was nominated for
Right.
Best Supporting, and the other one
It
was
happens
Best
sometimes. Sometimes it's just about like star
Yeah.
power and like where.
And also about what you think. As I understand it, they sort of navigate it based on what they think they can win.
Right, there's
Right.
that too. Like what do you have a chance in?
But I was surprised that Judd Hirsch was nominated and not Paul Dano, because like Paul Dano was like a way bigger role, and he did a good job in that, and just like to have Judd Hirsch, who was like in one scene.
And that's the only scene he's in, right?
Yeah.
That's what I was curious about. Okay, yeah. I saw that and I was like, this is it? Okay.
Yeah, that seems like such an old school type of nomination. Like that would happen in the 70s where like in Network, the woman is in the movie for like less than 10 minutes, I think, and won an Oscar for it.
Oh, wow.
So that used to happen some, but not as much these days. Like I think a lot of times now, like we're kind of talking about, like people who are in supporting and especially people who win, a lot of times there's an argument to be made that they're not even supporting, but they're just like, I could win an Oscar this way. Yeah.
I feel like the Academy loves Spielberg.
Oh, yeah.
will just
True.
give as much to him as they can. And that's sort of what's going on with, because he's fine. Judge Hurst is fine.
I thought he
in
was
it,
good.
but
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's one of the more annoying scenes. I was like not feeling that
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah, if you're not in on the movie, it's I could see that. I think it sounds like I liked the movie better than you did. So I think I enjoyed his performance probably more then. But
Yeah.
So you thought that Ke-Huy Quan should win though, right? You said?
Yes.
Okay.
That would be my vote.
Was there anyone else that you would have nominated, and would you have given it to them, or is this another one where you didn't really see outside of the nominees?
Yeah, it's another one. I mean, I think he's definitely the front runner, and
Yeah.
there's nobody else who I would have thought to give it to.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of that movie working, Everything Everywhere All at Once, is like hinged on his performance, because he's like the first indication really that something is different, you know, like his like character change is like, if that doesn't work, I don't think the movie works. That's like the first iteration of us seeing something behind the facade, sort of, you know, of the world that they're in, that there's something else behind it or parallel to it. Jackie, did you say you thought he should win too, right?
I think that he's going to win, Ke-Huy Quan. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think I already said, but I'd be down for that. I think he was great. Some other ones that I wish could have been nominated. I'm not even sure they should have been nominated over some of these people who were. Colin Farrell for the Batman, and if he was nominated, I'd maybe say like give it to him. Stephen Yeun for Nope, Bill Skarsgård, and Justin Long for Barbarian. I
fucking love that movie.
I thought both of their performances.
What was Barbarian?
Oh, you should see it.
You should
Chuck.
watch it. It's on
so
HBO
good.
Max. It's so good.
Is it on
so
HBO?
good.
Yeah.
Justin Long?
Yeah. It's a really good movie, and don't read anything about it.
Yeah, don't. It's
Okay, I
better
don't
to not
know.
know anything about
Yeah.
it at all.
Good, I don't. I didn't even know it existed.
Yeah, that's you are in a good place for that movie.
Yeah.
Um,
Just put it on and just watch and be like, what is this movie?
all right. Well, how about we move into screenplay nominations, and let's just talk about them all at once. I'll read off all the nominations for both categories. So, the nominations for Best Original Screenplay are The Banshees of Inisherin, Martin McDonagh, Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Daniels, Kwan and Scheinert, The Fabelmans, Steven Spielberg and Tony Kushner, Tar, Todd Field, Triangle of Sadness, Ruben Östlund. And then the nominees for Best Adapted Screenplay are All Quiet on the Western Front, Edward Berger, Leslie Patterson, and Ian Stokell, based on a novel, Glass Onion, Knives Out Mystery, written by Ryan Johnson, based on characters from his other movie, Knives Out. In Living, Kazuo Ishiguro, based on the original motion picture screenplay Ikiru by Akira Kurosawa, Shinobu Hashimoto, and Hideo Oguni. And Top Gun Maverick, written by a whole lot of people, based on the film Top Gun, written by Jim Cash and Jack Epps Jr. Women Talking, written by Sarah Polley, based on the novel by Miriam Toews. I didn't know until I got to this whether I was going to read off all the writers, and I guess I didn't read them all, but I read a lot of them, and maybe I shouldn't have.
You did a good job.
So, what do you guys think of these nominations? Who do you think will win? Who do you think should win of these nominees? Jackie?
I think for Best Original Screenplay, Everything Everywhere All at Once is going to win. Just because it won, the previous awards like the Golden Globe. And I think that in terms of like original screenplay, it's like one of the most original screenplays of like recent times. I feel like a lot of movies nowadays are based on other things, or they're reboots, or like they're continuations of a franchise. So there aren't many original screenplays, and I went into this movie not knowing anything about it, and it was like blown away because I didn't expect any of that, and it's like way out there. And in terms of like the other movies that are nominated, I was surprised that Tar was nominated for Best Original Screenplay, because I felt like one of the weak points of that movie was like how much it needed to be cut down. I felt like there was a lot of scenes that didn't need to be in there, or that there were like other elements of the story that needed to be fleshed out. So I was really shocked that it was nominated for Best Original Screenplay. I guess because like of the themes about like cancel culture and things like that. But
Well, that, and I think Todd Field is a guy who he makes a movie every like decade, if you're lucky.
Yeah.
And
I see. Yeah, I felt like that was like the weakest part of that movie, the way it was written. I felt like you need some work. In terms of best adapted screenplay, I think, I don't know, this one is harder, because like, what do you guys think? What other movies have won? I don't know. I feel like Top Gun Maverick would win, just because like it's such a favorite.
I think that would be hilarious if the big Oscar that Top Gun wins is screenplay.
I think it's just like, sorry, we didn't give you an award for anything else. You can have this screenplay.
Yeah, and then especially adapted, because like I understand the reasoning of like it's based on characters from another movie, so it's adapted, but it's still kind of like, intellectually, it's like, is it though? Is it adapted? Is it?
Yeah, it's weird.
But that's the rules. So what are you gonna do?
And then with All Quiet on the Western Front, it makes a lot of changes from the original work, and does it add to the story? I don't really know, because for instance, it starts way later than in the book. Like in the book, it starts much earlier. So like when this school teacher or whoever headmaster was like convincing all these students to join the war, after like at this point in time so many people have died, and Germany's like really losing. I don't think that these men would be as passionate to go to the front line after everything that happened. Like it's already a year, there's like a year left of the war, and like I don't think they would be as passionate as they were, like to like forge your signature, because you don't want to be left behind. After like you can see like how Germany's like clearly losing. I don't know.
Right.
It was all an excuse to show that uniform getting passed down or whatever.
I thought that was interesting, the uniform thing, but like I don't know. But like,
I feel like that's the only reason that they did it that way.
And then they also changed the ending about like he dies right at the very last minute before the 11th hour. That's like way over the top. Whereas like in the book, he like died in October, which is like still like close to the end, but not at the very last minute. Like that's ridiculous. Like to also like to fabricate this siege of like the last minute of like, we want to die as victors, and you're like right at like what 10 a.m. you're gonna go and like fight the French. That
is true though.
That it happened.
Yeah,
I thought that it didn't. They said that was like a completely.
Well, maybe that's not what was in the book, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, but they did hold the armistice, and people kept fighting, like past the point where they already knew that there was a peace agreement.
So that happened in the real world, but not in the book.
Oh, okay. So yeah, in the book, it was just like he died, and it was like all quiet on the Western Front.
Right.
And then in the other movie that won the Best Picture nominee, like he was reaching out for a butterfly, and then he got shot.
Spoiler for that movie.
Did you watch that movie? That was
that's
like
part of my feelings about All Quiet on the Western Front. But again, I'm going to save it till Best Picture.
Okay.
So what do you hope wins then, Jackie, from adapted?
I mean, it would be great if like some underdog won, like Top Gun or Glass Onion. I thought that Glass Onion was hilarious, and like
Mhm.
the way that the payoff at the end with the that was brilliant. Like I just like because Ryan Johnson, he's good at that, like setting
Right.
things up and like not have the payoff till like way later.
Right.
And so I think that's just like in general really good writing to just like have details that's always there and like you reference it and it continues on. I think that's just good writing. So
Right. Chuck, what are your thoughts on all these nominees?
I agree that Everything Everywhere All at Once is super original, and so it makes sense that it would win the original screenplay award. I feel like I wouldn't be surprised if they gave it to Martin McDonagh because
Right.
it's so screenplay-y and, you know, like dialogue-y, and he's like the foremost writer of our time, you could say. I think it would be interesting for Tar to win because I spent that whole movie thinking that she was a real person, and there's like this whole thing about how he like kind of tricked an entire group of people into believing that this was a real person.
Yeah.
And there's talent in that. So I think that would be kind of interesting.
It's like the
mean,
Blair
maybe-
Witch of conductor movies.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But I also understand Jackie's criticism that it's like kind of overly long and there's shit that you see that's like never gets paid off and
yeah, like
Right.
the
stuff like
whole
that.
thing about like there being some kind of ghost. Like what was the point of that?
Yeah, I didn't get that. I also realized like her lover is like taking a pill and it's like
What's
that
that?
never really
There's
goes
a lot
anywhere.
of things that were never paid off.
Mhm.
Yeah. So for adapted, I think they should give it to Women Talking. That's the most like screenplay. Again, similar reasons why I think they might give it to Martin McDonagh. Is it's like it's a screenplay. It's a bunch of people talking and it's
Mhm.
drama like through dialogue.
Right.
And it makes sense.
You saw that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have not seen it.
Top Gun, it's fine. It's not like the best movie, but
yeah.
it's got an interesting script for sure.
Right.
Top Gun, I think, has a great story, and I think the mission and the story and the way that they spend this whole time building up to this mission, and then they complete the mission, and then there's more shit after that is kind of cool. But I also think that and Glass Onion being quote unquote adapted is silly.
I agree. That's
so-
weird that you just because he made the original characters. That's weird.
Right. So
I mean, that's the rules. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. So I'd probably give it to Women Talking
Mm.
if I was in charge.
Well, I'll just throw out that I did not see Triangle of Sadness. I did not see Living. I did not see Women Talking. I did not finish All Quiet on the Western Front. That was a movie that I put on one time when I just felt like watching something and it was available. And I guess I thought technically it was impressive, but it got to be late in the evening and I was like, I can't finish this right now. So I turned it off thinking I would come back to it at some point and just kind of never felt like going back to it. So that kind of tells you where I'm at with that movie. But I will say that I do probably think Everything Everywhere All at Once will win, and I'm cool with that. I think you might be right though, Chuck, that if anything else is going to win, it's probably Banshees of Inisherin. I think that there's a lot to be said for the Fabelmans thing. I think it's a sort of unconventional narrative in a way, and I think that that's interesting, especially from Spielberg at this point in his career. It sounds like I like that movie more than at least Chuck, maybe Jackie too. I'm not sure, but
I thought it was fun. It felt very much like an old school movie, like a movie from the 90s
maybe
in terms of like how there was one scene where I was like, this is really over the top for present day. Like where was it, the swimming test, and he was like, there was like the whole drama, and she was like yelling at him, and then she like slaps his back, and then
Right.
and then she's like really shocked about that.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
actually where I stopped.
Well, you know what? I'm not saying that this necessarily means that it's okay for the movie to be this way, but like I've heard that anyone who's met Spielberg's mother, and like a lot of people did over the years, they've said that if anything, Michelle Williams' performance was very small compared to the big
Oh, wow.
personality that she had.
Mm.
Like she was a very like over the top person. Yeah. Again, I'm not saying that justifies it or anything, because like you want a movie to work on its own merits, not divorced from like the reality it might be based on or something. But I don't know. I liked it though.
Yeah, I thought it was good.
But yeah, I'd be fine with Everything Everywhere. I wish Nope, RRR, and Barbarian had been nominated for original. And if RRR had been, I'd be okay with that winning. I'd be kind of torn between that and Everything Everywhere, because I do think that while it's definitely the most screenplay, I think it's also really good screenplay.
You're talking about RRR?
No, Everything.
Everything Everywhere,
Yeah,
the
it's-
most screenplay.
yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It is.
In a good way. And yeah, and then for adapted, I don't really know. Like I'm very like I said, I didn't finish All Quiet. I don't really give a shit about that movie at this point. I'd be fine with Glass Onion winning, but like I don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if it would be. I think it's going to be All Quiet. I think that's going to win, because I think that
Really?
movie's done. It's been very successful at some other award stuff. It might end up even winning Best Picture out of the blue. But I think it might win screenplay at least, because the Oscars, they just like go crazy for war movies, and this one is like a classic book and a previous Academy Award winning Best Picture. I mean, not this movie, but you know what I mean. There was another version of this story that already won Best Picture decades and decades and decades ago. I wouldn't be surprised if it's that or Women Talking, just because maybe for the reasons that Chuck said, and just Sarah Polley being someone who's been in the industry since she was a child, and I think people in the industry know who she is, and sort of recognize her as a talented person who deserves recognition. But in her case, maybe the nomination is the award, for a smaller movie that didn't get as much attention as people thought it might at one point. I also think the Batman should have been in the running for this, because I thought it was a
that movie was
really good screenplay, actually. There you go. Those are my thoughts. Why don't we move on to Best Director? So the nominees there are Martin McDonagh for The Banshees of Inisherin, Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert for Everything Everywhere All at Once, the Daniels. Steven Spielberg for The Fabelmans, Todd Field for Tar, and Ruben Östlund for Triangle of Sadness. Again, I did not see Triangle of Sadness, so I can't really speak about that one. But Jackie, what do you think? What do you think of these nominees?
I think it's fine. I know that people were talking about like, why isn't a woman nominated?
Mm-hmm.
And like some of the people that mentioned was Sarah Polley, and the director of The Woman King. I forget her name. Sorry, but in terms of like these, I thought they did a good job. And I understand why they're nominated. If I had to choose who I want to win or who I think is going to win, is probably going to be the Daniels, just because what they did is like this movie was like so out there, and they had to like keep track of everything, and it was just a lot. It's just dealing with a lot. So I think that's interesting. But like, yeah, what do people look for in like best director? Is it like how you direct the actors, how you direct the action sequences? Like, what is it? I don't know. This was like harder for me to
I don't know,
to figure out who's going to win and what like qualities they're looking for, the Academy.
I also feel like before they expanded it to 10 Best Picture nominees, it was like easier to just assume that Best Picture would also win Best Director, and usually that would happen, not always, but usually. And I feel like that has not been the case as much since they expanded the field. There's a lot of more splits between director and picture, which some people think is weird, because it's like, how could you be the best director of a film?
Yeah, Ridley Scott thinks that's weird.
Yeah. I think Ben Affleck thought that was weird when he won Best Picture and wasn't even nominated for Best Director. But
Right.
Anyway, so that's a wrinkle in there. One thing I find interesting about this is that all 5 movies nominated for Best Director are writer-directors, and they were all nominated for original screenplay. I mean, the only person who nominated for original screenplay who's not a director is Tony Kushner, who co-wrote with Steven Spielberg, you know? So I'm not sure how often that happens, because I feel like so often the Oscars like adaptations, and I feel like the original screenplay crop this year is, to me, from what I've seen and from what I've heard from other people about the movies I have seen, including the two of you now, maybe the original screenplay movies are the stronger movies overall. Like, that seems to be somewhat a consensus at this point. So I just found that interesting. But Chuck, what did you think of these nominees?
That is interesting.
And who do you hope will win? And Jackie, I don't know if you said who you thought would win and who you want to win, but
yeah, I think that the Daniels are going to win, and I think that's fine. I think they did a good job, and it's just so funny how they got to this point, because like their last movie was that
Swiss Army Man.
Yeah, where the dude escaped the island from a farting corpse. I
Right.
don't know, it's funny.
Yeah. Yeah, when that movie came out, I don't think I ever imagined they were going to win Best Director and Best
Yeah.
Picture with their next movie. But
So
Chuck,
I
what do
think
you
that
think?
would just be funny if they won.
Yeah,
Totally.
I think Daniels should win, because it is an undertaking, and they really did bring it all together in a way that, I mean, maybe Ruben Östlund is the only like second, like, is comparable in terms of the scope of what he was trying to do and
Oh, really?
succeeded at doing. Yeah. In Triangle of Sadness. If they give it to Steven Spielberg, I'm quitting. I'm done.
Aw.
So not because it's like he did a terrible job, but it's just like it's fine.
He doesn't need it.
It's fine.
Yeah, he
It's
doesn't
not,
need it.
you give it for the big, the sort of wow stuff.
Mhm.
So I think Daniels. And I don't think there was anything else that I was like, wow, that was so well directed, and
Right.
they
You mean
deserved
outside of
to be-
these?
Yeah, outside of the.
Oh, I got some thoughts.
Oh, let's hear them.
It
Well-
should be
well, first-
RRR probably.
Definitely. Well, first, I will say that I do think the Daniels will win. I think of these nominees, I would probably vote for them. I'm a little more in favor of Spielberg than you are, Chuck. Like, I'd be totally fine with him winning for that. I don't think he needs to win. He has 2 Best Director Oscars already. But I don't know. This is like a very personal story, and there's that whole narrative about it. So I wouldn't be surprised if he won instead of the Daniels, and I wouldn't be mad at it. I think he's the most likely other than them, if that makes sense. I think other directors who I wish had been in the running, or if they expanded the field like they did Best Picture or something, I definitely say S.S. Rajamouli for RRR. I mean, phenomenal movie, phenomenal direction. It's like a crazy ass movie that, like, my description of that movie that I've said on another podcast is that he made the movie that I think Baz Luhrmann has been trying to make for years, and someone else too, but I forgot. But anyway, like, because it's just this big bombastic movie that has like all these different parts that should not work together. And when Baz Luhrmann does it, you get Australia, which sucks. And when this guy did it, it's fucking amazing. So yeah, I'm very high on RRR and the direction of that movie. Jordan Peele for Nope is another one. James Cameron for Avatar: The Way of Water, and Zach Kreger for Barbarian.
Oh.
So those are my thoughts on Best Director. Jackie, were there other things that you wish had been nominated or in the mix at least?
No, I think these were good choices, and
They are good.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm not really biased any one way or the other.
Yeah.
Like I don't think there was like a standout where I'm like, yes, this person should have been nominated but wasn't, because I think that the Daniels really deserve it for this year, just because like it was definitely out there and different, and
Right.
like Chuck said, it was a huge undertaking.
I gotta say, I was kind of shocked that RRR was not nominated for Best Director and Best Picture. I kind of thought it was going to be because it was such a crossover hit in such a big way, and people who saw it loved it for the most part.
Was it nominated for foreign, or is
No,
it still called
it wasn't
foreign?
even nominated for that. The only nomination it got was for song, which is insane.
Whoa.
I mean, the song's amazing and whatever, and like it within the context of the movie, it's even better. It's like one of those where it's not just like, here's a song over the credits at the end. It's like in the story, the song is like great and it moves the plot forward and it's really good. Yeah. So anyway, it didn't happen.
Wasn't meant to be.
It wasn't meant to be, I guess, which is nuts. But well, why don't we go ahead and get into it? Best Picture. The nominees are All Quiet on the Western Front, Avatar: The Way of Water, The Banshees of Inisherin, Elvis, Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Fabelmans, Tar, Top Gun Maverick, Triangle of Sadness, and Women Talking. Oh yeah, that did get nominated for Best Picture. Did I say before it didn't? I was wrong. So
I thought you were
oops.
talking about Sarah Polley not being nominated for Best Director or something.
No, I was just forgetting that this got nominated for Best Picture. Good for it. I didn't see it, but I like Sarah Polley overall, and I do want to see it. It just hasn't really been that available where I could see it. So what do you guys think of these nominees? And if you want to, as we go through these, like if you want to share your top 5 or top 10, whatever you want to do, whether it be these nominees or any other movies you saw, I'd love to hear those. So Chuck, do you want to start us off?
My favorite was Top Gun Maverick, and I think it would be really cool if it won. It was such a hit. Everybody loved it. And as Steven Spielberg said, it saved Hollywood's ass. And I do think there's something kind of neat about giving the Best Picture award to a movie that really helped keep movies afloat at a time where they were struggling. And I think it's a great movie. And you can give every other accolade to everybody else, and everybody wins. So All Quiet on the Western Front.
Yeah,
let's get into it.
I love the original. I recently rewatched it. It's so good. It's so powerful. It's so meaningful. It even withstands the fact that they're supposed to be German and they're so clearly American. Like these American 1930s boys who are like supposedly German soldiers. It doesn't matter. It's a beautiful, beautiful movie. And this is like, who gives a shit? It's just so... It's like, yeah, they add all this stuff about, the armistice and whatever. And it's like, that's not the point. That's not the point of this story. And the characters are like indistinguishable to a certain degree, one from the other. And so I was just so unimpressed. I mean, it's technically impressive,
Right.
but there's also a level of like, I saw Private Ryan and I saw 1917 and at a certain point that shit stops being impressive because it's not new anymore. It's impressive that you pull it off, but it's not like you're not telling me anything I don't already know. So I don't really get the love for it. I don't really understand why people are so over the moon about it. As far as everything else, I don't get the Elvis thing. I don't get like it wasn't that good. It was fine. There were some cool moments, but overall it was kind of bloated. Triangle of Sadness was cool. That was I was surprised. I didn't know what it was, and then I watched it for this and I was like, that was a cool movie. Surprising and interesting, and had something interesting to say. And then, the rest is what I don't know why Women Talking it would be Best Picture.
I agree. I was like, why was this nominated? I went to see it because it was nominated for Best Picture, and I was like, why was this nominated? Because it's literally what it is. It says women talking. It's literally just that, and it's like it
and
feels
one guy
yeah,
talking
and one
and
guy
crying a lot.
and it was like it just felt like a really long setup, and then it gets to a point where you would think it would be like the inciting incident, but then the movie's done.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I would rather have seen what happens after than them like debating whether or
Right.
not to leave.
Right.
Okay.
Which
Yeah.
was like, so I was really surprised I was nominated for Best Picture, because I went in thinking like it would be like, I would really feel something, that because like that usually with Best Pictures they are really good at making you feel something.
Not always, but
Or there's like something about like whether it's like it's right.
I thought it would
writing
be
or
more
anything.
powerful than it
Yeah,
was.
exactly. You hit the nail on the head.
what would you pick, Jackie, of these nominees?
I recently watched Everything Everywhere All at Once again, because
Mhm.
so I saw it last March
Mhm.
when it first came out, and I saw it in IMAX, and I went in not knowing anything at all, and then it turned out to be like one of the most unique cinematic experiences of my life.
Nice.
But I feel like, and so like I didn't think it would be nominated because I was like, that movie was so great, but it's like so early in the year. I don't know if it would be nominated, because
Right.
usually like the Best Picture nominees are from like November to December of that year. So I was really surprised, but then it kept like people kept talking about it, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. But then it got to a point where like I would recommend it, but then people are like, oh, like it didn't meet my expectations, because everyone's like, this movie's so good. But then I feel like it gets to a point where it gets so high that people are like, oh, it was all right.
Yeah, there's some backlash to the movie.
Yeah, that
'Cause
was my experience. I like waited too long to see it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think even it being like seemingly the locked in front runner to win Best Picture, like anytime that happens for a movie in any year, there ends up being backlash where people are like, "Do we have to do this just because it's scripted already or something?" And sometimes then it doesn't happen. So I won't be surprised if it doesn't win, but I do think it will, because I think it still has the momentum, if you want to call it that, and like the general interest from people, and mostly goodwill. I think some people hated the movie. I do think it's a little more divisive than some people realize, because it's a movie that if you can't connect with it, you're gonna be really fucking annoyed by it, I think. And the Academy is a bunch of old people for the most part still, so who knows. There is
then
that.
With All Quiet on the Western Front, I didn't like how much CGI was in it. I felt like you could have spent some money on some of the effects. Like you didn't have to show everything. You didn't need to show like people getting their arms blown off or anything like that. But you could like save your money for a few scenes where you can use practical effects and have it, be really meaningful. So for instance, like there was that opening scene where that dude whose uniform becomes the main character's uniform, like his eye gets shot through, but it was so bad. The CGI was so bad. I was like, that's so fake. And like I wanted to feel for this person, but I was like, this is like, you could have paid whatever, just put like a squib and like have like a prosthesis to look like his eye got shot out or whatever. It's like it really took me out of it. Like I wanted to connect, but like there are parts where it was like so obviously CGI, and I wish that they saved their money to just like for these few powerful scenes, like to do practical effects.
Right.
Have you seen the original?
I did, but like it was so long ago, because like I read it for high school, and then we watched a few scenes. Like we would watch it like for each chapter that we like.
Interesting.
Yeah. So,
I
but
saw the original, but it was like at least 20 years ago, so I barely remember it.
yeah.
Yeah, I would rewatch the original as a masterclass in missing moments.
Okay.
Because like every great scene in the original is either not in the new one or like just fucked up. Like just not like the crater scene is such a
Right.
powerful and interesting experience in the original movie, and in this it's like 2 minutes long and it's like it's over.
Right.
And
Right.
shit like that.
Where did you watch it?
It's on Prime, I think.
Is it?
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I remember.
I might have rented it.
I remember thinking it was really good when I saw it, but like I said, I can't remember basically a moment of that movie at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would be worth going back to. I'd
It's
rather go back and watch that again than continue watching the new one.
Yeah. You're
But-
doing yourself a favor, I think.
Sounds like it.
And then
yeah.
the other one's Tar. I thought Tar was like the longest setup to the best punchline ever. Like that. I remember watching that in theaters and like laughing so hard at the end. But like I felt like the other people who I was watching it with, like in the theater, they like fell asleep because like I felt like I was the only one laughing, but it was so good. Like
Yeah.
it was so funny.
Yeah.
And what else? The Triangle Sadness, that was like one of my favorite films of last year.
Mm.
And then if I could pick like other best pictures that I enjoyed watching, was definitely like Barbarian. That's definitely one of them. That's definitely one of those movies where you don't know what's gonna happen,
Yeah.
and like you just like following along for the story, and like when like so shocked one minute and the next, and it's like also like dark comedy, which I love.
Yeah.
And The Menu's another one where it's like the same thing, where it's like you don't know where it's gonna go, and then it's like more dark humor.
So do you have like a top 5?
Yeah, this is my top 5 right now.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's Barbarian is number 1.
No, Everything Everywhere All at Once is number 1.
Okay, that's number 1.
And
then
then
Triangle Sadness?
The Triangle Sadness is definitely in the top 3. But I don't
Okay.
know what I would put as number 2 though,
Okay.
because like I do love Barbarian. I feel like Barbarian and The Menu are like very similar. I feel like they could be like a double feature.
Oh, interesting. Having not
And-
seen The Menu, I find that interesting.
Yeah, you should definitely watch it. And then the 5th, like I have so many, like I really like The Northman, that Robert Eggers movie. It was,
wow.
it's like it's so well shot, and there's this one scene where like he rearranges like body parts into this work of art. Did you
like,
did you guys
like
see
Hannibal, the TV
No.
show?
it? Because he's like doing it as a warning, because it's a revenge movie, so he's like.
Ah.
So he doesn't reveal that it's him, but like he like kills people that he's trying to get revenge on, and like he like rearranges their body. It's kind of like in Game of Thrones when they made that spiral out of human body parts. It was like that. Remember that?
Nope.
Nope.
What's his name? The Ramsey guy.
Right.
Didn't he do it?
I remember him torturing people.
And like there are other movies that I feel like went under the radar, like Bones and All. That's the Luca Guadagnino movie, and it was like
Right.
about cannibals.
I heard it was really violent.
It's a cannibal love story, which is like so different, like because it's like these people with this affliction where they have to eat human flesh, but then they're also like falling in love, and like and like Mark Rylance is really good in it. Like he comes up because like, he plays like a really creepy yet soft-spoken character, and I think that it's worth watching. It's definitely very different, because
Okay.
like you wouldn't think of like a cannibal love story. And yeah, Nope was good. Broker, Bodies, The
Okay.
Batman.
Okay, well, Chuck, did you have like a top 5 or top 10 you wanted to run through?
Top Gun Maverick. No, I didn't have a top 5.
Okay. I'll just quickly say my top 10. But first I'll say I did not see Women Talking. Like I said, I did not see Triangle of Sadness, and I did not see Elvis. And I only saw about a third to a half of All Quiet on the Western Front. All the other movies nominated, I liked pretty much. So, yeah, I do think Everything, Everywhere, All at Once is probably going to win. I'm cool with that. I think that's what I would vote for out of these probably. Like I said, I kind of won't be surprised if All Quiet wins, just because it's a war movie and old people voting and stuff like that. And but I also won't be surprised if Top Gun wins. I don't think it's the best picture of the year. I think it was really fun. I enjoyed it a lot. I kind of want to see it again to see if I like it even more, because I did like it. I thought it was really good. And I do think there is something to what Chuck was saying of it being sort of a movie that kind of saved movies in a way, and like, why not give it an award for that? I'd be fine with that. And there is something also to me of like, what won last year? Was it Coda?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Coda.
Was that last year?
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
my timeline is completely off. So I think it's kind of funny going from Coda to Top Gun Maverick if that happened.
Yeah.
It's just like the polar opposite of film in a way. But both crowd pleasers, so maybe not so much. There you go. So my top 10, number 1 is RRR. Number 2 is Everything Everywhere All at Once. Number 3 is Nope. 4 is The Banshees of Inisherin. 5 is Tar. 6 is The Fablemans. 7 is Avatar: The Way of Water. 8 is Glass Onion. 9 is Barbarian. And 10 is Moon Age Daydream, which I think is the only one that has not been mentioned yet. That was the David Bowie documentary that was very good.
Oh.
And really worth seeing, I think, especially if you like Bowie, which why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So yeah, okay. Well, we've been talking for a while, but outside of what we've discussed so far, are there any other movies, performances, etc., that you'd like to shout out, or just like something else from a movie, like you like the cinematography or the editing or the music or something? And for this, like we did at the top of the show, we don't even need to limit ourselves to 2022. So anything since the old podcast up until now. And yeah, so
I have something
who wants to start us?
I have
Yeah.
something to say about The Fablemans.
Okay, go ahead.
I know that it's a period film, but it still felt like it was made of a different, like it was made for the 90s, where like the way that he makes the movie, if that makes sense. Like how people make movies now compared to like how they made it back then. And a lot of the writing and I know that's like based on his life, but like in terms of I feel like it's based on like it's a movie that's made in the 90s because the people who made movies in the 90s grew up at the same time as Steven Spielberg, you know, going to high school in the 60s and stuff, because it was just like you know, that whole thing about no one likes him because he's Jewish, and then he dates this girl who's like really religious, and like they're making out under a crucifix, and like the kid who's like bullying him is also like this the golden boy who struggles with like being the best, like everyone sees him as like
Right.
this perfect person, and like I feel like those kind of characters are very much of a different time as what you see in films today.
Right. And also every other movie that came out in the 90s had kids making out under crucifixes, let's remember.
Yeah.
So
Right. You're kind of describing like a teen comedy, sort of like a John Hughes era
Yeah, so it felt like,
archetypes.
yeah, exactly. It felt like archetypes of a different time.
Mhm.
And so that's why I feel like it was like a movie made in the 90s, even though it was like set in the 60s. But do you know what I mean? Do you get what
I
I'm
mean, I
saying?
don't quite
Like
get
it
it,
felt like because he's
but
like
I believe you.
I also because like it's Steven Spielberg and like he is of a different era in terms
Yeah.
of like directing and like
He's
the way
old.
that
He's
he
washed
direct-
up.
It's just like an old school kind of movie making compared to like I feel like today. I don't know. It's a different feel. Like I feel like now it's
Mhm.
like more naturalistic and like I don't know. I'm generalizing, but like you know, it's more gritty. Like people want
Sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, Steven Spielberg is like pushing 80, right? So
Yeah. And he's
I
never
think that
been
it makes
the
sense.
grittiest guy.
yeah, but I think it makes sense that his work might start to seem a little like old school, you know? And he defined movies of at least probably 2, if not 3 decades. So,
Right.
yeah. What'd you guys think of Dune?
Oh my God. Was that this?
That
was
was
that
last
No, that wasn't this
2022?
year, but it was
That was last year.
since the old podcast, though.
I really liked
They
Dune.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm excited for the next movie.
Yeah.
Dune was cool because I saw it in IMAX right after I was recovering from COVID. So I was still like kind of COVID brain, and you're kind of like it's a little bit of a high
Right.
while you're like watching this trippy movie.
Sure,
sure. And it was I really enjoyed Dune, and I really enjoyed the time it took. like that it took its time. It only did half the book, and
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
because it's
thought
gonna
it
be
was
like
cool.
a trilogy, right?
Is it?
Is it a trilogy? I know there's at least another one.
Yeah, they're filming the other one right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
What was
I really enjoyed it, but yeah, once it got to the end, I was like, I guess I'll wait to see the rest before I decide if I liked this or not, because this didn't really
It's kind of half a
end
movie.
a story.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it was all very well done. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the
So that
visuals
was
are
one
good.
movie that I was like, if we'd still been doing a movie podcast every week, I know we would have talked about that one and probably had a lot to say.
Mhm.
Another one was The Matrix Resurrections.
Oh yeah,
What'd you guys think of that?
horrible.
Yeah.
Oh wow,
Did not like it.
didn't like it, huh?
Did
I liked
not
it.
Need it.
I thought it worked. I enjoyed it. But
But I also like the sequels, which nobody likes. So
I
don't know.
rewatched the sequels
Mhm.
at some point in the last couple of years and enjoyed them more than I did,
Mhm.
you know, a decade and a half ago or whenever the hell they came out.
Sure.
So, yeah. But I liked Resurrections. Jackie, you didn't like it either?
I fell asleep, so I feel like I need to go back and like watch it.
Did you ever see the
HBO.
sequels?
Yeah,
The Reloaded and
and even the Animatrix too. I saw
That's
that.
awesome.
Yeah.
I never
like
saw the Animatrix.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It's like little stories.
This is from many years ago while we were still doing the podcast, but a film that recently made it into my top 5 of all time
Ooh.
is, and it's funny because it's a documentary. Is
Are you
OJ?
pointing at me?
Yeah, because we used to talk about how I don't like documentaries, but
Right.
OJ Made in America. I rewatched that recently.
Yes,
That is one of the
sir.
greatest movies ever made.
Yes. Yeah, man.
Oh, wow.
On the old podcast, when at the end of 2019, I did like a solo movie segment because I needed to do an episode that week, and I did like my 5 favorite movies of the decade, and that was in there.
Yeah.
And because I think that is phenomenal.
It's a brilliant movie.
Yeah. Jackie, have you seen that?
The documentary?
OJ.
No, I have
OJ Made
not.
in America?
I
You
haven't.
must.
Okay.
So good.
I'll put it on my list.
So, how about we end on this? What are your thoughts on the state of movies these days, or movie going? Like, are you guys going to the movies, or are you waiting for streaming for stuff?
So like recently AMC did this thing where they raised the price. There's like premium seating now, like their
Right.
Ticketmaster, where if you're in like a prime spot, you pay $2 extra, or if you sit
Mhm.
all the way in the front or all the way in the back on the side, it's like you minus $2. And I
Right.
was like, I don't like. I guess they want to make profits, but they're so that's so unnecessary. I feel like that's gonna discourage people from going to the movies even more.
Yeah.
And cause like remember that day where it was like movie day or something like that, where like movie tickets were like really cheap, like
Yeah.
two,
They're like
$2,
$5, I thought.
Yeah, something ridiculously cheap. So many people went to the movies. Like it was
Right.
like the parking lots were full, the theaters were full, and like I don't understand why don't they just like do that, like have a day where it's like really cheap, and like so then more people will go to the movies, and because I feel like now everyone waits for streaming.
Yeah. It's like the only movies that get an audience in the theaters now are like huge movies, like a Marvel movie or Top Gun, or the upcoming Mission Impossibles, I'm sure, or a movie made for like 70-year-old women, like 80 for Brady, like movies like that.
Right.
Seriously, like because
Yeah, that did
old
well.
people still go to the movies because they're like, I want to get out of the house or whatever. I don't know
Right.
what their deal is,
That's
but
true.
they show up and those movies do well, and I don't know, it's just kind of sad to me that, like, I think we talked about this in our previous podcast and before the pandemic even, that like, you know, and it's not like we were the only ones talking about it. It's like been a theme, I think, in movie podcasts especially, and just coverage of the movie industry, the disappearance of like the mid-budget movie of any sort, really, like whether it's a rom-com, a comedy,
Right.
a straight drama, like those movies have become fewer and far between, or at least successful ones, you know?
Well, didn't Ticket to Paradise, that did well, right?
What is that again?
That was
That's
the
the
Clooney,
Julia
Julia
Roberts.
Roberts.
Oh, yeah.
rom-com.
But I mean, who went to that? Old people? I wouldn't be surprised.
I don't know. Some people went, but clearly enough people went that it like.
Yeah.
I thought it was gonna flop, like whoa, but
Right.
it actually did decent considering.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like most movies now are just going straight to streaming. Like Hulu and Netflix make those movies that are more like
Mhm.
teen movies and stuff like that. They're just direct to streaming because I feel
Yeah.
like, especially the younger generation, they want to have something on in the background. So that's mostly like how they get their views, which I feel like it the landscape now, it makes it harder for more independent stories to come out. Like most people want to make money, so they want it, based on whether a franchise or a reboot and things like that. So
Right.
there's too many of that. And I feel like
Yeah.
I don't know if like people are it's just so oversaturated, like people are sick of it now and they just want other things. Like I hope it goes towards more original content, but because like even with the
Yeah.
Marvel movies, they were like pumping them out so much that they're going down in
They
quality.
suck now too.
Yeah.
I mean, I have not really enjoyed that much any of the Marvel movies since Endgame. Like I feel like they
Right.
knocked it out of the park with that, and then it's just been downhill.
Because that was
Like,
the story. That was the whole shebang. And now they're like starting over again.
yeah, and I'm just surprised that they weren't better prepared. They've fallen into some certain tropes that I think were the ones to avoid in some cases with some of the movies.
And
You know?
I hear that they're doing like less practical stuff and doing more
Yeah.
CGI stuff. So that's why like a lot of the movies are really dark, is because they want to hide the bad CGI because they
The- yeah,
don't.
the bad
They're
CGI.
not
Oh, I didn't
spending
even
enough
know.
time
Yeah.
on it.
And they're overworking CGI
Yeah.
department, so like the work isn't as good as it would have been some years ago. Have you guys liked any of the like? There's been Black Widow, there was Eternals, a Doctor Strange movie, a Thor movie.
I haven't seen
Ant-Man.
I'm in the midst of catching up, but
Mhm.
I haven't seen anything. I saw
mean-
the Wakanda Forever because
Oh yeah,
it was
Black
nominated.
Panther, yeah,
but
right.
I didn't think that was that great.
I thought it was
honestly.
okay, but
yeah, I
it
feel
didn't
like
live
a
up
lot
to
of
the
them are just
first one.
okay. I mean,
Yeah,
the Spider-Man was fun to watch in theaters just because like of all the reactions.
true. That too.
Um,
Yeah, that was fun, but I still thought it was like gimmicky, you know? Like I didn't
Right.
think it really held together past that. Like I don't know. It
but
was
I
okay.
feel like the Marvel movies have really ruined how people view movies now, because now they
Sure.
compare things. So for instance, with Everything Everywhere All at Once, there was like someone who was like, this movie isn't as good because like they should have had her like meeting her other selves and things like that. Like they were comparing it to the
Doctor
Doctor Strange and the Spider-Man movies, and it's like, no,
Yeah.
it doesn't have, just because it's like a multiverse movie, you don't need to have like it be
Right.
similar to that. Like it's exploring it in another way for like its own themes. Like you don't need to
Yeah.
think about it like how it compares to
I mean, that's like the
Marvel movies.
worst kind of criticism. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's like, if you like that, just watch that.
But what's
Like,
interesting though is Everything Everywhere All at Once is technically like a mid-budget movie, and
Yeah,
one of the
sure.
things I find so incredible
true.
about it is that they did all the effects themselves, like
Yeah.
on a Final Cut or some shit. Like they like on their computer, like it's
Right.
all. It's very much an indie movie. It just doesn't feel like that because it's so big in scope.
Mhm.
And then to Leslie.
But that's like the outlier, right? I'm not wrong in thinking that.
I don't know. I think they're out. I think the thing about it is with the way the landscape is, it makes it harder for mid-level movies, but it also makes it easier because more people can make them. And the technology is as such that, we all can get a camera and a crew and, like in a way be guerrilla about things so much easier than you could in the 80s or the 90s. Certainly any time before then was like,
Yeah, because film
whatever.
was expensive.
yeah. So I do, and like To Leslie is a mid-level, like low budget indie movie, but it's
Right.
also like, it's interesting, but is it reinventing the wheel? No. And it's sort of, I think the filmmakers are also at a point where there's a challenge to say something new and to do something fresh. and it's hard. No
Well,
one's really coming
I
up
think
with
you touched
an
on
answer.
I think you touched on something though, because like I don't think To Leslie is even mid-budget. It's like super indie, right? It's like super low budget, wasn't it?
I mean, I don't know what the budget was, but yes, you're probably right that it's
And
very much a low budget movie.
yeah, and I think that's been the thing is that like for a while now, you had these like behemoths. Why did I say that word like that? You had these behemoths, like the Marvel movies or Top Gun or whatever, and some of them are great and some of them are like whatever. But then you had small movies that could do relatively well compared to their budget, but like, not a lot of people were seeing them still because they didn't get the same foothold. I think like something like Everything Everywhere All at Once is something of an outlier, and it being, like you said, kind of a mid-budget movie that, whether it was just of the circumstances of when it came out and what else was or wasn't out at the time, like there was room for it to find an audience and kind of keep going by word of mouth, which in a way that like I don't think we see that often anymore. I hope it catches on and that we see more of that, but like I don't know. Do you think we will? I don't know.
I think that's the filmmaker challenge. I think you need to create something that's worth talking about. And it's just hard now. And it'll only get harder because film is what? Talkies are, we're approaching 100 years old we're not even 100 years old yet of talking sync sound movies. So it makes sense that like at a certain point you hit like a critical mass of content and art where, we don't have jumping to Technicolor. We don't have jumping to CGI. We don't have we're already filmed to digital. Like, what's the next revolution? What's the next thing that makes movies interesting and exciting to the point where people are talking about them and they're not just filler? That is not an audience responsibility. That's that's the filmmaker that we, the creators have to figure that one out, and they do have to do it in a way that's ballsy and isn't just profit motive based, which is obviously the sort of clash that's I think occurring to a certain degree.
Right. I think you're right to a degree. I do think that like if there's something that is good enough, it can break through, but that doesn't mean it will break through. And I do think a lot of the responsibility goes with, you could call them filmmakers too, I guess, but like the studios and the money side of things, they have not been as willing to put money into those mid-budget movies for years. And I'm hoping that will change maybe if they recognize that like, oh, Everything Everywhere All at Once, look at how much money that made versus the budget it was made on. Like, this is profitable. We don't have to have every movie be like $1 billion franchise movie. That's not the way it used to be. But then Disney comes along and eats everything up, and other companies are chasing them, sort of like Warner Brothers to some degree. I think they just want everything to be a grand slam, knock it out of the park, fucking like, movie that everybody in the world sees. And their entire business model is hinged on maximalist audience saturation, and it's just like it's not sustainable. Like it's so stupid and short-sighted. Where it used to be like those movies would help them pay for the smaller movies, and I hope that they just kind of get back to that mindset at some point. But I don't know if they will. Kind of watching what's happening with like HBO, where they're like, it's
a combination. It's the film. The film people and the money people have to work together to have to have that same goal of like, let's create something that's really meaningful. That's like the whole Robert Evans kind of, night.
That would be great if that was happening. I think that right now, like looking what's happening with Warner Brothers and like, they have been in a state in recent months or last year or two of where they're like, it's more profitable for us to bury a movie we already made because we can write it off than it's just so fucking like demented, So anyway,
Yeah, that sucks.
what a note to end on.
Yeah, because like with HBO Max, they took off all those shows and like they don't
Yeah.
even exist on DVD. So it's like,
What
you
did they
worked so
take
hard
off?
on. They took off like a bunch of shows. Like I think one of them was like was Mink, like a creator of Mink was like, oh wow, I spent like 15 years like thinking of this series, and like like so many
Yeah.
people worked hard on this, and you're just gonna take it off, and it's not.
And they
gonna
didn't even
exist
tell
anywhere.
people. Like creators woke up one day and were told like
Yeah, that's fucked up.
you couldn't find it on a platform anymore. That happened in several cases that I saw reports of. I couldn't tell you what they were now, but yeah.
And that's why I think, and I've been saying this for years, that we need
Blu-rays?
a independent film movement of today. They did it in the 80s, they did it in the 90s, and it kind of fell off, and it wasn't the indies blended with the studio system to the point where now the studio system completely overshadows anything that you could argue is independent. And I think that it would be good if we could get a nice new indie movement where people own their shit, and you can't just have somebody take it away from you like that.
Yeah, because it's like you're not even gonna put it on DVD. That's the whole thing. Like people didn't even buy DVDs or Blu-rays, whatever, anymore. And it's like, well, then it just doesn't exist anywhere. And so people like worked on this, and it's just like disappeared.
But you need
it's on a hard drive somewhere that no one can get to.
You need like an indie United Artists. You need like that sort of. You need a lot of people to come together and work for. But right now, it's very individualistic.
Well, I don't. There's a couple of like small studios, if you want to even call them that like I think are along the lines of what you're talking about. But I'd be interested
like
what you think
A24,
of, like A24, Annapurna to some degree, maybe.
Sure.
Neon, yeah. But yeah, it just, I think it's hit or miss for them. Like I think they try to get stuff out there for people to see, but sometimes there's a marketplace that snatches it up, and other times it's like, okay, I guess this is going to Hulu instead of the theaters.
Yeah, I don't think
it's both at the same time.
I guess I kind of feel like the theatrical versus streaming thing is the wrong battle to fight, because streaming is going to exist. It's how it is. But Top Gun Maverick is one example of showing that if you do things a certain way, people will go to the movies, but you have to like do it that way, and I've heard Sean Penn say that recently, where he was like, I wish some of the filmmakers would be more sort of active in withholding the movies and sort of demanding theatrical release, and and that's what I mean by like people coming together and being like, this is what you want our movie, this is how we're gonna do it. And you need the Spielbergs and the Scorseses and all these people to like, and the James Camerons and all these people to come together and make that take that stand,
right,
and work together.
Yeah, I think like James Cameron is an interesting one to mention. I think him or Spielberg are two like old school at this point directors who they probably have enough sway to be like, you want my next movie to come out, you got to also produce like 5 independent films or mid-level films that need a theatrical release and need your support. Like if I could see that working if they would do it, but I don't know if that they would.
You would think that Cameron could produce those movies himself.
Yeah.
At this
point. He spends all his money on submarines or whatever. So.
Right.
But anyway, any quick final thoughts after we've spoken for over 2 hours?
Go to the movies. They're out there.
Yeah, what I liked about the podcast was that I went to see a lot of movies that I wouldn't have seen. Or like I've heard about like you would recommend movies that you would have to go to like Film Forum or something like that, like really obscure movies. Which I appreciate, because now I just go to AMC and like whatever's there.
Yeah, my goal is to go to the theater once a week this year, and probably frequent Film Forum more than the AMC.
Yeah, my problem is I now live in Tallahassee, Florida, and right now there's nothing here like that. So it's like
Right.
it's like big chain theater or streaming. There is like a Tallahassee Film Society here that has a small independent theater that has been closed for renovation since we moved here, and I'm hoping it will reopen soon. So
Yeah, you
we'll
need
see.
to have
We'll
at
see how that
least
goes.
one spot where it like plays, independent
Yeah, I
movies.
had that in Austin, so
Yeah.
that's the thing I missed from there. But yeah. Anyway, well, I really enjoyed this,
Yeah.
and I hope that
Yeah,
we will do
I
more of this in the future.
I feel like I missed this. I feel like I was like in this bubble where I was like with film
Yeah.
students and like people just like who love films, and now I'm like more with like casual watchers. So when I talk about
Right,
movies, they're
right.
like, "What's that?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
So,
assholes.
so
No, just kidding.
so I miss this. Being in the bubble of people who really love film.
Yeah, same.
Yep.
So let's rebuild the bubble.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. All right. Well, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Stereoactive Presents, and thank you to our guests, Jacqueline Soller and Charles Hinshaw. The music in this podcast is composed by Hansdale Sue. My name is Jeremiah McVay. If you like what you hear in this show, please rate and review it in Good Pods, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else that allows that. Doing so helps us to expand our audience and is much appreciated. And please follow us wherever you happen to listen to podcasts. Every little bit helps, and it is truly appreciated. You can also get in touch with us at stereoactivemedia@gmail.com, and you can find more information about this show and everything else that Stereoactive Media is involved with at stereoactivemedia.com.
This podcast is produced by Stereoactive Media.